Hey folks, my name is Jen, and today we're going to unhaul a shit ton of books. Okay, so by now you've probably seen my book haul, and I believe I mentioned in it that I had a bunch of books that I had decided to get rid of. I already had a bag with books in it of basically things over the past, I guess about a year, that I decided I didn't want anymore, or I read them and I didn't enjoy them and decided I was just going to get rid of them. So I ended up like a month or so ago going through my books again and just really doing a good hard long look through anything else to see if I could, get rid of anything. So I have a whole bunch of books here that I showed you I have a whole bag full. I have consulted with one of my best friends, and it does appear that she will take at least most of these off my hands. And then I've got a couple that she doesn't want that I'm gonna end up donating or selling, however that ends up working out. Okay, so first up we'll go into books that I have read that I decided, you know what, I don't want these. So these will probably not come as a surprise to you if you've been around here a while and you've heard my thoughts on them in previous wrap-up videos or whatever. The first of these is Dead Sleep by Greg Iles. This is a mystery that I just really did not enjoy. I think I gave it like a 2 or 3 stars when I read it last year. There was a lot of problematic things happening in here. I did not really enjoy this reading at all. So yeah, this is quick for me to put this in the pile, basically. Another couple from last year, we have, first of all, The Night Sister by Jennifer McMahon. Probably heard that I didn't really enjoy this. This is kind of like a horror, but it was just definitely not what I was expecting, and I still haven't forgiven this book entirely. Then we have The Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie by Alan Bradley. I did enjoy this one for the most part, but there were just a few parts in here that didn't sit right with me, and honestly, I don't know if this is a series that I'm going to bother to continue with or not, so I just decided, you know what, we're just gonna say goodbye to this. And then we have Arusha and the End of Time by Roshan Chakshi that I read last year and absolutely hated. This was a big disappointment to me overall. We heard me bitch about this book a lot, but I didn't like the sense of humor. I didn't think it was even remotely funny. I thought it was incredibly lame, and yeah, so giving this to someone who will, my friend might like it. If she doesn't, well, I'm sure when we bring books to donate to bookstore, maybe somebody out there will like it instead. And then we have a book that I didn't much like from this year, which is Digging Up Love by Chandra Bloomberg. This is a romance novel that was also not what I was expecting. Didn't really feel a lot of chemistry with the characters, and this has no smut. And I read romance novels partially for the smut, so disappointing. Somebody out there who's anti-smut will love this, I'm sure. And then this one is an oldie. This is a book that I've had for a while and was disappointed in it, and I've just decided, you know what, to get rid of it. My dad didn't seem interested in this. or interested to keep this, so yeah, that is The Mayan Secrets by Clive Cussler and Thomas Parry. This is part of the Fargo adventure series about a married couple who managed to get themselves into the craziest situations. Didn't enjoy this. The ending was highly improbable to the nth degree, even for a Cussler. And yeah, I didn't like the characters. I didn't enjoy the experience of this. And that was the second or third Fargo mystery I've read, and I pretty much have the same reactions to all of them, so not going to continue with the Fargo series at all either. Then we have a couple of books from like my younger years that I recently got, I brought home with me from my parents' house. I remembered not really enjoying these when I was younger, so I'm just going to get rid of them. One is On the Far Side of the Mountain by Jean Craighead George. I do own My Side of the Mountain and recently did a reread of it, so I do want to keep that one. But I remember I really hated the sequel, so I'm just gonna pass that along. And then also Pirates by Celia Reese. I really don't remember much about this at all, except for the fact that I remember very clearly throwing the book across the room when I read the ending of it. That's pretty distinct in my memory, so I figure, you know what? I've been feeling pretty salty about books that have wasted my time over the past couple of years, so I'm just gonna say that memory of me as a teenager chucking this across the room is pretty visceral, so I'm just gonna get rid of it now. Then I have books that I have DNF'd last year and this year. One is sadly The Resurrection Man by Charlotte MacLeod. I purchased this thinking that this was going to be like really great. It sounds like a pretty cool cozy mystery set in Boston, in, I'm not really sure as to the time period, but it's set in Boston a while back. I didn't like it, sadly. It was very pretentious, and pretentious writing is a pet peeve of mine. So yeah, I ended up DNFing this, which is unfortunate because it's so pretty. It sounded really interesting, and this is like a signed by the author copy that I got at a secondhand shop, which is unfortunate. But yeah, so that's getting passed along. Another one I DNF'd from last year was A Guide to Haunted New England by Thomas D'Agostino, because this had just really biased, rude-ass writing concerning the genocide of Native Americans. Basically called genocide by them, just the wording that they used for that versus the wording that they used that the Native peoples did in retaliation to white settlers differed. Like, the author made it seem like the settlers were massacred, but the Native peoples, well, that didn't really matter that much. And that infuriated me. So I DNF'd this, and I do not plan on reading anything by this gentleman ever again. So yeah. Then we have stuff that I DNF'd this year. I DNF'd The Human Abstract by Elizabeth Willis. Poetry that I liked at one time, I guess, but I don't know what the fuck happened in this at all. I can't grasp any meaning from this. It's very inaccessible. So, DNF'd. I also ended up DNFing, I think my wrap-up for July will have gone up. Yeah, already. So, You will see this later and hear more about a couple of these, maybe, but yeah, I DNF'd Hidden by Fern Michaels. It has, it's extremely info dumpy, and it has what I consider to be a pretty big book sin, which is the situations that are not that funny being described as the funniest things ever, and then somewhere in it is written, and then we all laughed, or we all chuckled, and then everyone shared a big hearty giggle. That might sound really judgy on my part. I'm sorry, but that is a writing pet peeve of mine. When everyone shares a giant chuckle about something, and then you get the explanation of what the something was, and it's not even remotely funny. This does this, and it's also info dumpy, and yeah, so that was a no for me, dog. And then I have 2 Kristen Kemp books that I liked when I was a teenager, pretty much. I Will Survive is a book about a girl who she's been wronged, and then she decides to go on this revenge kick. I ate this shit up when I was a teenager. Loved it. Rereading it now, I didn't so much. I didn't like, I guess the pettiness was still something that I was like, oh, okay, but I didn't like one of the characters in here who was made out to be a good person all the way through, and they're actually a giant friggin' turd muffin. So, yeah, I ended up DNFing this, and I also ended up DNFing The Dating Diaries by Kristen Kemp. The writing between these two was very similar, and I think at the time when I was, 15, 16, whatever, it was something that like some of it, like they're talking about, they lit up their camels and they did this, and I just thought, ooh, it's so edgy. I'm reading about teenagers that smoke, and now as an adult, I'm just kind of like, y'all need to grow up. And I don't know, I didn't find it as, I guess I'm in a different place in my life than I was at the time when I was first reading these books. And so I no longer feel for the characters, connect with the characters, and I don't like the writing style and the way they're written. It just is not something that's really for me anymore. So, yeah, I ended up DNFing them and deciding to unhaul them so they can go to a home where teenagers, or maybe somebody that still likes that kind of thing, can still like it. Early, I also decided to, actually, earlier today, DNF both of these Lauren Miracle books as well. Rhymes with Witches. And again, it's a issue with the writing, I guess. Everything sounds like Mean Girls, I guess, and maybe that, again, that's not something that I connect with anymore. Having been a teenager in the early 2000s, just having to sit down and read people and the way they acted as high schoolers in the early 2000s, or what was assumed to be how high schoolers in the early 2000s acted, and I'm just very much over it, I guess, and it's not something that I'm really, again, connecting with anymore or really interested in anymore. The language that was used in here, different things that were said or applied, I'm just kind of like, first of all, where are all of your parents? And second of all, I just feel like I want to shake these teenage girls that feel like popularity is the everything thing. Like, I don't remember really understanding it at the time as a teenager, and I understand it even less now. So, yeah, I didn't care anymore. So I gave up on that, and I also gave up on TTYL partially for the same reason. And also partially because this is like written in AOL Instant Messenger, like chat speak, basically. And as someone who regularly used a lot of this, unfortunately also used a lot of this in my own personal writing as well, God, it's too cringy to read. It was cringy then, and I feel it now. Ooh, it's so, I just can't. I just can't do it. Then I also decided to ultimately DNF a bunch of books that I have been holding on to, figuring that I could slowly try to make my way through them, and that's just not going to happen. So, giving up. One of which is, sadly, The Maid by Nita Prose. I started reading this back in February, and, you know, thought that this was going to be really great, and I picked it up again in like March or April, and then every time since then that I have tried to pick this up to continue reading it, I can't. I don't really enjoy the main character. Unfortunately, I find her to be kind of annoying, and I also just really don't like the way this is written. Speaking of books that I don't like the characters and or the narration, we have The Long Fall by Walter Mosley. I'm finally calling it. I can't do this. I don't like the main character. He's narrating the story. He is not really a good person, really, entirely, from anything that I've seen so far. I kind of find him to be a little bit despicable, and I know that's like a cop-out to stop reading a book because, like, why does everyone have to be a good person to read a book? But, like, I just can't. Like, it makes me grumpy, and frankly, the world is shit enough. Like, I feel like I read, yes, to learn more about the world and to expand my horizons and gain knowledge, but I also read as an escapism. And I don't like reading about shitty people. Or rather, I can read about shitty people, but when the main character, the person who is freaking narrating the story, is kind of a shitty person, I can't be arsed, so. And then I'm also sadly giving up on Dead Dead Girls by Nikisa Afia. I can't figure Louise out. Louise is the protagonist. Even though this is like very clearly related to her and is about her and everything, it's like she just feels like a 2D character somehow, which doesn't make sense due to all of the traumatic shit that has happened to her, that is happening around her, and she's having reactions to things, but somehow it still feels like she's, like, there's not much of a personality there, and it's kind of infuriating. Like, there's a lot of shit happening, and I just cannot figure her out, and so that sucks. I also don't really like the way it's written, so I'm giving up on this too. Because every time I try to get into it again, I just end up putting it down and picking something else up or looking for something else to do that's not reading. So I'm gonna give up. I also decided to give up on the Canterbury Tales by Chaucer. I was informed that this is pretty funny. I can't find anything funny in this at all, and I think that that problem is mainly because I can't understand what the hell I'm reading. So there are a bunch of like footnotes in the back of this book, which theoretically should be helpful. It's not. I've also had to try to either ask the Echo or Google stuff, trying to like get some sense of what the hell is being said in this epic poem or series of poems or whatever the hell this is. I can't do it. It just is a very inaccessible book. And I am so bored and confused. So I'm just giving up. And yeah, I also decided to give up finally on Hidden Figures by Margot Lee Shetterly. I wish that I could get through this, but this is just so incredibly boring. Kudos to the author for the amount of research and the time that she took to write this, but it's so dry. It is like the driest, most boring textbook that you ever read in school. It is just hard to get through, which is really unfortunate because I want to know more about this part of history and about these like super smart ladies, but I can't do it. So probably gonna end up watching the movie, which I was holding off on for when I finish this, but I'm giving up. So I'll watch the movie and hopefully I can find another book or something that is written about them. If any of you know of any other like media that is about these ladies, please let me know, because I still want to read something about them, but I cannot do this book. And then I have a couple of books that I haven't read but have owned for a while, and I've just decided, you know what, no. One of them is Hannibal by Thomas Harris. I tried to start reading this years ago, right after I grabbed this. This was in like a free like take a book, leave a book section. So yeah, I started like reading this because, you know, I read Silence of the Lambs. I saw the movie. I really enjoyed that, even though some of that is quite problematic if you think about it. But at the time I just really liked it because, hey, serial killers, that's fascinating. Yeah, this is not going to happen. I remember from when I started to read it years ago, the reason I stopped was because something really gory happened and it kind of disturbed me, and I was like, maybe I'll come back to this around October or something, and then I just forgot about it and have never picked it up since. So you know what? We're just gonna say goodbye. And then another one that I bought for the purpose of reading around like Halloween or something was Ghost Road Blues by Jonathan Mayberry. I have tried to read this several times and I can never get further than the first couple of chapters. Why? I don't know. I'm just having a hard time getting through any of it. So those are basically everything that I am unhauling. You'd think I'd have a lot more room. I actually do not. I am at capacity again. Yay! So yeah. But this is basically everything that I had to get rid of, or not really had to get rid of, but just decided, you know what, I don't want these anymore. Somebody else will want them, so they should go to homes where someone appreciates them, unlike me. So yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and yeah, if you feel like subscribing, please do so, and I will see you in another video next time, hopefully with a little less bitching, and yeah. Bye.